20 seconds to go. One last gasp for Edmonton. Bouchard's pass didn't click with Draisaitl. 12 seconds to go. Florida trying to end it up against the wall, which would be fitting. 3 seconds to go. The Florida Panthers have won the Stanley Cup. For the first time in their 30-year history, the Florida Panthers are Stanley Cup champions. They made it about as hard on themselves as they possibly could, battling a valiant Edmonton team that had rallied from adversity all season long. And Paul Maurice, coaching lifer, 30 years in the National Hockey League, has his Stanley Cup.
What the puck is going on?
Here's your host of What the Puck is Going On, Dave Metzger.
All right, welcome back in What the Puck is Going On, everyone. We are back after about a 2-week hiatus. We had the break in there for the Four Nations tournament. And, Steve, let's touch base on that real quick before we get into the standings. Quick show tonight for you. Thursdays should be much more informative. Only 2 games tonight, so we'll see if we can't find us a little something. But, Steve, back to this Four Nations tournament. I'm going to go ahead and start real quick by saying, I thought it was well done. Anytime that, you have a best-on-best tournament like that, it is definitely exciting. Players really love throwing their nation's colors on, going at it. USA comes up just a hair short in overtime for the Four Nations Championship, but all in all, entertaining. A couple downsides, but for the most part, Steve, I think it was a good tournament. It was good for the game. You have people tuning in who don't usually watch hockey, rooting for Team USA or rooting for Canada or the Swedes or what have you. So all in all, Steve, I think it was pretty fun to watch. With that being said, did you catch any of it? And what is your summary and thoughts there on the Four Nations tournament?
Yeah, I watched the USA games. I watched the Monday afternoon game with Sweden and Canada, or was it Finland? It was actually Finland and Canada where the Finns got the late goals because I had a little interest there with a Connor McDavid goal and a Canada win. It was fun. I'm interested to know what your couple of downsides were about it. For me, the one missing ingredient, and obviously, I mean, the politics go far beyond the national anthems and the quote unquote tariffs with the United States putting the tariffs on Canada. Which, you don't hear about the flip side of the Canadian tariffs put on the United States. You don't hear anything about that. But the Russians not being involved, it just sticks out to me. And obviously, with their worth, Ukraine, they're going to be kind of held out of, a lot of things. I know the Olympics, they were not a part of that the last time around. So missing the Russians was kind of a thing to me. Now, we have the Olympics next year, right? And apparently we have some sort of international hockey for the next 6 or 7 years. So we probably won't see this format again for a while. But it would be nice when it's available to have something like this adopted. Absolutely.
Yeah, Steve, I agree. And I'll touch just kind of, I guess it's one downside for me is You have a tournament that is this competitive in nature. Again, when you have guys throwing on their nation's colors, they want to bring their best game. And we saw that in the tournament. We saw highly skilled players moving very fast, showing what they could do. We had some fights in there, even USA and Canada, fireworks early in that one. So, Steve, my only issue, I guess, would be is, you have this high-intensity tournament kind of right in the middle of a season to where you have some guys going back to their teams, like a McAvoy to Boston, I believe, and he's hurt, Steve. He's probably done the rest of the year. They're trying to make a push. You have Kachuk there for the Florida Panthers. He's banged up. Questions about when he's going to return, a team that is, heading towards the playoffs without one of their better players. And, you see these examples of it, and I think that's just my one issue because of the high intensity of the nationalities is, these organizations back in the NHL have to be a little nervous thinking, well, now we have key guys hurt coming off of this, intense matchups. So, Steve, I think that's really the only qualm that I have. Other than that, spectacular, and I'll be looking forward to the next one for sure.
Valid point. I mean, the team like Florida relies a lot on Kachuk, right? I mean, and you saw how they sputtered a little bit against Seattle on Saturday, not having him available. On the one flip side of things, I know they had a rough weekend in Pittsburgh, but how about Sidney Crosby playing in both of the games there over the weekend versus the Capitals and the Rangers, where a lot of guys took time off there. Mr. Crosby answered the bell for the Penguins in 2 losses, we shall say, in 2 disturbing losses at that.
Oh yeah, Steve, what a bad weekend.
But you gotta give credit to you gotta give a credit to the player.
Oh yeah, you give all the credit to the player. He's a very high level player. Arguably one of the best in the league. But again, Steve, I think he even sustained a shoulder or arm injury in that tournament, and you could tell he wasn't 100%. He had a goal the other night, but he could have definitely sat out one of those games. Chose not to. And we're going to get into the standings here in just a second. But, Steve, that team heading backwards quickly. So I guess, he's in there to try and spark them to a playoff position, which is going to take an awful lot at this point.
Right.
So let's go ahead and take a look at that. We'll go ahead and jump into our slate, get things rolling here. Eastern Conference in the Atlantic Division. Toronto is leading that with the Atlantic Division with 72 points. Florida right behind them with 71. You see a scenario where Kachuk could play a big role into needing those points, needing a spark, and he's not there. And Tampa with 68, they're picking up the play a little bit, so they're holding the third spot. We're going to do this by the playoffs standings now, Steve. We're late enough where I don't think we need to go into the whole Atlantic Division standings here. So with the Metro, we have our Washington Capitals. What can you say about them? We'll get to it here in a second. 84 points for them right now, leading the National Hockey League as of tonight. Jets, the one team behind them.
15 goals over the weekend.
What a crazy weekend for them. Carolina was 70, so there's your gap. 14 points as of right now. And New Jersey holding the third spot with 70 as well. Your 2 wild card teams right now are Detroit with 64 points, Ottawa with 62. Your teams in contention after that will be Columbus with 62, so they're right there on the cusp. Boston right there on the cusp as well, 61. So that injury to their key guy in the Four Nations is going to come up massive. New York trying to hang on. That's the Rangers with 60. The Islanders with 57. Montreal with 57. Philly with 57. Pittsburgh with 51. And or 55, excuse me, and Buffalo with 51. So, Steve, there's the East. There's the playoff picture. What are your thoughts here as it stands?
Let's see here. Sorry, Dave. I'm scrolling towards some other stuff here, so let me pull this back up.
Okay.
I was looking at the best power plays in the NHL as you're talking about that.
Oh, okay.
So standings wise, I know this is enthralling podcasting, waiting for me to get here. Okay, so we're talking about the Atlantic, correct?
Yeah, with Atlantic.
Or are you talking about the Metro?
Well, I went over both because I feel like we can start talking about the playoff picture now.
Right.
You know,
So
the full
as far
length
as conference
standing.
standings, yeah, obviously it's tighter in the Atlantic. And Toronto is a team that preseason I thought could find their way on top of that division and make a deep playoff run. And lo and behold, here they are. And I'm wondering, Dave, if the Eastern Conference isn't as competitive maybe as it was here in past years, only because some of the teams here at the bottom of the playoff picture haven't been impressive. Some of the teams who were in the playoffs last year are finding themselves out of the playoff picture currently now, a la the Rangers and the Bruins. And you have some newcomers trying to make their way in here, like you talked about, the Red Wings, Columbus, even. I know we've been a fan of them, rooting for them. But the Maple Leafs on top of the Atlantic here and number 2 in the Eastern Conference are having a great season to me. The Capitals, I think, are a strong team. I don't think that they're fluky. I think they can make a deep playoff run. I think Toronto can make a deep playoff run. And honestly, after that, I have a lot of questions about everybody else. Even teams like Carolina, who are the odds-on favorite to win the Eastern Conference to some now, they just have something missing. And when they lose ugly as well. Florida, obviously, when they get hot and can play their type of brand of hockey, which is a playoff brand of hockey, just kind of, grind you out on the forecheck. And that's a good way to win in the playoffs. They'll be a tough out for sure. But even after that, I mean, what have the Devils really done to super impress you? What have the Lightning done to super impress you? And then after that, I mean, we're talking about teams like the Red Wings and Ottawa and Columbus. So I'm wondering if the Eastern Conference isn't a bit thinner than we kind of anticipated at the beginning of this season. And that's good news for our Capitals because that's going to pave the way for them really to have a legitimate chance to get into the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, Steve, I you make some really good points there. I agree with you. Newcomers such as Detroit and Ottawa, where they were trying to get there last year, they didn't. What are we going to expect out of these teams? And I'm going to make the case later on for the penalty box. This is not just because they keep doing me dirty, but Detroit, I have watched their last couple games where they've been up 2 or 3 goals and they lose both those games in overtime. That's just not going to get it done. It's just not playoff time.
Yeah, you can't blow these leads when you have them.
That's right. Sure. You got to close out your games. They're not doing it right now. Does that mean they can't? We're gonna need to see that down the stretch, and they're not showing it. So, big question marks here, Steve. I really agree with you, and that's very well said.
Now, Tampa Bay is hot. They've won their 5 in a row, so they're looking good. And Ottawa is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You never know what you're going to get from them. Obviously, they've lost 4 in a row now. Everyone else seems like they've been on some sort of besides Detroit, how about that 8-1-1 for Detroit in their last 10? And our Capitals are hot. But besides that, everyone else is right there around 500 in their last 10 games.
Right.
Trickling all the way down to Montreal, who was doing good, but now Montreal has hit the skids 2-7-1 in their last 10.
Yeah, they've looked to falling flat. So big
They've
question
still been
marks.
scoring, but they've been losing. They give up too many goals.
Right, yeah, as many as they get, they're giving them right back.
Right.
So we're gonna have some stuff to keep an eye on down the stretch here, Steve. Now let's talk about the West because we have some separation here, and I myself thought the Central was going to be a little bit tighter. It's still decently tight, but kind of not really, Steve. So let's go over the playoff picture here. In the Central, you have Winnipeg with 83 points. They're leading that division.
9 wins in a row now for Winnipeg. How about that?
Right. They are hot as can be. Dallas with 76, another strong contender. Minnesota with 72, so there's your top 3 in the Central. You look into the Pacific, you have Vegas with 74. Nowhere close really to Winnipeg in that regard of quality. So Edmonton was 72. They're holding the second spot in the Pacific. And LA is where they've seemed to be pretty much all year, third spot in the Pacific with 67 points. Steve, right now your 2 wildcard teams are Colorado with 68. And then here's a gap that kind of has to give you a little bit of a warm feeling if you're Colorado, if you can just keep winning some games. Vancouver is your second wildcard team with 63 points. Calgary on the cusp with 62. And then it really kind of starts to fall off. You have Utah with 59, St. Louis with 58. And then you're getting into teams like Anaheim and Seattle, who are kind of right there with 57 points and 54 points, respectively, for those clubs. But, Steve, in my eyes, it's not as tight as we've seen it in the past couple of years. So what is your take on the West in that playoff picture at the moment?
I think it mirrors the East a little bit. I mean, all the strength here, to me, lies in the Central Division with those 2 top teams, Winnipeg and Dallas. To me, they are the class of the conference. And after that, again, I'm going to have to start to have some questions. Vegas just reeks of inconsistency to me. They don't have super stats that blow you out of the water, although they don't allow a ton of goals. It's not like they're scoring a super amount either. So I think at any time, if their offense kind of sputters, they could find themselves in trouble. The Wild have been consistently inconsistent. Although they won 3 in a row, they're bound to lose the next 3 in a row. And Edmonton, once they started to get hot, and they appeared to me here in January, Dave, in the beginning of February, to be making the move to be the best team in the Western Conference. And now they've gone flat. And we can't rely on their defense. We saw how many goals they gave up to Washington yesterday. We saw how many goals they gave up to Philadelphia on Saturday, a team they shouldn't be giving up 6 goals to. And to me, Edmonton is a shade of themselves from last season. Colorado, again, another team that has just been inconsistent. Dave, the team that we've always kind of root for and like are the Kings. I wouldn't be shocked, and it could start tonight with the game against Vegas. This is a huge game to me. If the Kings win this game tonight, then I think they can make a push to actually jump up and win this division. The Kings are a team I'm going to perhaps look to ride here to close the season. I feel like defensively, they've only given up 139 goals. Now, they don't score anything. They only score 156. But it's hard to lose when the other team can't score against you. So if they can just find some offense, which I think that they can, then they can definitely move up the charts here in the conference standings and find themselves with a Pacific Division title at the end of the day. So the Kings are a team for me to look at. And again, you mentioned it as well. We need a number of these teams kind of jockeying for that last spot with Vancouver, Calgary, even Utah and St. Louis and Anaheim, if they can just make a push. And I give a team like Anaheim credit. 25, 24, and
they're
7.
trying.
Big win at Boston. They don't give you much in terms of scoring either, But man, they can't find any offense themselves. Just 144 goals scored on the season. If you want to compare that to someone like the Capitals have scored 211. So that just tells you how bad Anaheim has been trying to put the puck in the net. But the class to me clearly here is Winnipeg and Dallas. And if these two find themselves in the Western Conference Final, that will not be a shock to me. But my futures will be based, I think, on Dallas and Winnipeg. I think they're both very viable to represent the Western Conference in the Stanley Cup. Much like I will probably solely invest in Toronto and Washington at this point.
Yeah, Steve, that's going to be a good way to kind of attack it. I agree with you there. I agree with your thoughts on Edmonton. Goaltending seems to be an issue along with their defense. Usually not a good recipe.
But you got to give this show credit to Dave. We've been on Winnipeg since day one on this show.
Yes, we have.
And even with their long odds that they've been paying, we've been telling everyone out there, grab these odds while you can.
Yes, yep. So we'll see I'll tell you what, Winnipeg and Dallas, what a fun Western Conference matchup that would be. All right, Steve, 2 games tonight. Let's go ahead, take a look. We will start.
Speaking about the Ducks, Dave, they're 38-18 against the spread. Well, that's with the puck line. How about that?
I'm telling you, the Ducks are surprising. They were down too late against Detroit. They got them one, pulled the goalie, got them another, forced that game into overtime. So they're kind of impressive in that nature right now, as to where I would be careful picking on them because as much as they're kind of not a top tier team. They don't give it to you either. You're not going to go in there and just kind of expect to come out with a win. They're going to make you work for it. That's what we've seen from them most of the year. So it would be fun to see them kind of ramp up and take that last spot and go play, at least one round in the playoffs. So we'll see if they're able to do that.
And,
so Steve,
that low-scoring type of hockey is the kind of hockey that can advance you too.
That's playoff hockey.
They are right now 19-35-2 to the under.
Steve, you make a good point. If they can get in there, they've been playing that style, the whole year. So why not? Why not them? I guess you could say out west. So we'll start here with the Sharks and the Jets tonight. This game is in Winnipeg, 7:40 p.m. puck drop. You have Vitek Vanacek, an ex-Cap there. We know him pretty well. He's in goal tonight for the Sharks. Nice to see him getting some starting time out there. He's a decent goaltender anyway. I liked him in Washington, so good for him getting some starting time. But the task he is up against tonight is the Vezina front runner, which the Vezina Trophy, for anybody who is unfamiliar with that, is the top goalie in the league. Mr. Connor Hellebuck is in goal for the Jets tonight. Steve, that is a tall order there for the Sharks. Can they get enough by Hellebuck tonight to win? I'm just not so sure. Your over-under is 5.5 tonight. San Jose is plus 380 on the money line. Heavy favorite, minus 500 for the Jets. Steve, you're going to have to climb the ladder here pretty high to get anything, I think worthwhile playing on the Jets side. So I think this is going to be a no play from me. We kind of know how this game should go. But if you think San Jose, a team that's fresh, and they didn't have any players in the Four Nations tournament either, so a nice long break for them. Maybe these young guys are fresh and want to come out flying. Plus 150 on the puck line for the Sharks at plus -1.5. Now, I'm not saying take that, but maybe it's something to look to if you think the freshness plays a factor. Steve, at the end of the day, I think it's a no play. There's going to be tough numbers here. What do you make of this one?
To put it in perspective, you talked about the Vezina Trophy with Connor Hellebuck. He's minus 2,400 to win that award right now. So that tells you how much of a favorite he is. And actually, our Capitals boy, Thompson, is right there in second at plus 22 to 1 odds, plus 2,200. So maybe worth the $10 bet on Logan Thompson if he can sway some votes here in the last 25 games or so. This is the biggest spread I've seen all season, Dave. Minus 520 for Winnipeg. I have no interest in the Sharks here going against this machine, which is the Jets. The Jets at over 3.5 goals is minus 166. That's about the best way I can play them this evening. The San Jose will give up a ton of goals here. Let's see here. What are their splits? If I can jump back to it. San Jose. They've given up 219 goals and have scored 150. So 219 goals is by far the most in the Western Conference. The second place team in that regard is Chicago, giving up 201. The Penguins are the only team worse, giving up 214 goals. And Winnipeg has scored 206, allowing just 137. So this has blowout written all over it, Dave. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is a 4-1 game, 5-1, even 6-1 type of an affair. I'm not sure what this alternate puck line is, minus 3.5. I'm not too interested in taking it. It's only plus 265. I'm not going to jump on the Jets at plus 108, minus 2.5 either. But I think I got a simple angle for tonight, and we'll throw to Winnipeg. Total goals at over 3.5, minus 166 on here. And we'll go ahead and pair that up with the next game and get a nice moderate plus number on this parlay that I want to play. So give me the Jets over 3.5, team goals at minus 166, laying massive juice. San Jose, if you think they can score 2 goals, you have to lay 154 for San Jose to get 2. I'm not so sure they can get that. The Sharks are a bad team, and they're in trouble tonight.
Yeah, Steve, I completely agree. All right, next game up. This is the game of the night, a much, much better matchup. Vegas is in L.A. to take on the Kings. Steve, my goaltender matchup, I only have Darcy Kemper right now. That's going to be the goalie for the Kings. Do you have a Vegas goaltender?
I don't have either goalie listed right now, to be honest. So you're ahead of me in that regard.
All right, so we got Kemper in goal for the Kings. He's been playing well for them. Your over-under tonight is at 5.5, minus 115 on the money line for the Vegas Golden Knights. Minus 105 at home is the LA Kings. Your 60-minute lines are looking nice, plus 140 for the Knights, plus 145 for the Kings. Steve, I'm going to stick to the guns here on the show, and I'm going to go with the Kings. I like a money line play at minus 105. I could very well see this game going into overtime. 60-minute plays would be a little risky. Plus 145 for the Kings, though, might be okay. But, Steve, let's keep it short and simple here. L.A. money line straight up at home. What are your thoughts?
I'm going to take a page out of your book, Dave. You had a nice winner yesterday, and your last leg was Toronto and under 7.5 goals. I'm going to take the Kings and over 2.5 Kings goals together.
Ooh, all right.
If I parlay that with the Jets over 3.5, I can get plus 246 for a payout. Now, I kind of almost want to get a little frisky here and scratch to minus 105. Hope that the Kings can win in regulation here. at plus 150. And now I can get plus 324 on my payout with the Kings winning 60. They score 2.5 goals and over 3.5. But you know what? That overtime is the one that can kind of get you to that 3 goals a lot of times anyway. I've got a lot of winners because they kind of changed how they do things on the sports book, where a lot of time these total goals for the teams have been just in the regulation only. Now they include overtime. And that overtime is paid off tremendously in terms of getting a lot of these teams to go over their individual number. So we'll stick with the Kings money line. Kings over 2.5 goals, over 3.5 Winnipeg goals, and worst case scenario, maybe if we're lucky, we have to go to overtime to get that last goal to make this a winning bet. Plus 246, my number. So, I think that's worth maybe a $25 bill to win $60 tonight.
Oh, you know what, Steve? I like that. Let's get a little frisky with that one. That's a good little ticket on a night that's very underwhelming.
And in fact, if you wanted to, you could actually take Winnipeg with their 60-minute line as well. Because we don't expect this to go to overtime.
No.
Now that's minus 300. But now, we're going to get an extra. We'll go from plus 246 to plus 274. Yeah, I don't think that's worth it. We'll just stick with what we got here. Yeah. Just in case the Sharks have one of those crazy nights.
Yeah, and you never know.
Yeah.
So it's funny. We get to the goal scorers here, goal scorers and penalty box, and then we'll get out of here for the evening, and we'll have a much better slate for Thursday.
Yeah, what the puck is going on now. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as well. So Mondays and Thursdays for this program.
All right, let's start it off with the goal scorers, Steve, and we'll start with you.
All right, let's see here.
If you're ready for it, I have 2 of them queued up.
Go ahead. Let me know what you got.
All right, Steve. I'm gonna. We talked a lot about the Jets tonight. The one bright spot for the Sharks has been their rookie Macklin Celebrini. He's at plus 215 to score tonight. I'm going to go ahead and take that, see if he can get one past Hellebuck. And then we're going to go with Jack Eichel for the Vegas Golden Knights, plus 160. 2-pick parlay there at plus 719.
All right. I think we have a lot of goals tonight, so I'll give you a long shot here on the Jets. Go ahead and give me David Gustafsson at 8-1 odds to get a goal for Winnipeg. If you want a shorter shot, maybe Cole Perfetti at plus 270. And here in this Los Angeles game, I'll go ahead and take for an anytime goal scorer. I'll take Kempe at plus 210 for the Kings.
I like that. Yeah,
Kempe's a nice player.
I like that a lot.
Very good player to me. Yep.
All right, Steve. Let's close things out with the penalty box. I know who mine will be. I'm curious to see who yours is going to be this evening.
Well, I'm going to throw in the Penguins.
Trying to switch 7 guys. Mike, come on. You can't do that. That was probably number 10. 2 is broken. 82, Tampa, tripping.
I mean, talk about a team that's reeling, Pittsburgh. Just when you think they can get hot and make somewhat of a playoff charge, they've done what they've done here in the last 3 to 4 weeks. And coming off the Four Nations break, just complete and utter disaster for them, defensively at least. They're liable to give up 1 million more goals as they lead the NHL and giving up goals. I don't see that stopping at any time soon. So, yes, play against the Penguins, whoever's playing them with their team total goals from here on out.
All right, Steve, totally understand that one. I definitely agree with you. I'm going to go tonight with a team that you wouldn't think we'd be throwing in there. And it's just for the factors alone of what I've been hearing and what I've been seeing. And that's going to be the Detroit Red Wings. You might ask, well, how are you going to throw them in the penalty box? They're right there in a playoff spot. Well, Steve, it's exactly for the facts that I mentioned earlier of the two games that they had where they're up and they're not able to close these games out. As I'm watching them, I'm hearing commentators and sportscasters themselves, they're saying the same thing, where if this team's going to get in and they're going to make a run, they're going to have to, shore these games up. And those are two games that they really should have won. And when it comes to the playoffs, that kind of style is not going to get it done. You've got to be able to close your games out. And right now, Steve, they have not been able to do that. And they're not safely into the playoffs as of right now. So bad habits such as those, can see yourself out of a spot. So for those reasons, Steve, and I'm sure they'll pick it up, but this week alone, them just letting the other teams hang around is going to get them put into the penalty box this week. All right, Steve. Well, 2-game slate. I think we've covered quite a bit here. Any other programming notes before we head out?
We'll have on Sizzling this Wednesday. We'll have on another episode of What the Puck is Going On Thursday, and we will do Bet to the Future this Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And with the sports schedule ever changing, Bet to the Future will be best for everybody if it ends up on a Monday or a Tuesday. So count on that moving from Sunday. But we'll catch up with you on Sundays for the time being until March Madness, really. And then we'll have to switch times. All right.
All right. Yep. So programming notes there. If you've caught the first airing of Bet to the Future, that's going to be a really fun show. Steve, I had a bunch of fun with that, so we hope everybody sticks it out with us on that one.
Yeah. And that's a show that could be replayed now. It's still timely for everything that we've talked about futures.
Yeah, absolutely. So just keep an eye out for those times. What the Puck is going on. That is going to do it for us tonight, and we will see you Thursday.
Wise. Yep. Thanks, Dave.
All right. Thanks, Steve.